Hi and welcome. Have you been enjoying the conference so far? Okay, my name is Tomas de Lucca. I'm Tommy de Lucca at Twitter. You can follow me there. And I'll be talking on how to scale using server-driven UI. A bit of background, I'm a mobile expert at Mercado Libre. I work for the fintech unit of Mercado Libre. It's called Mercado Pago. Mercado Pago is the largest payment processor in Latin America. Inside Mercado Pago has a mobile app. We call it the Mercado Pago Wallet. Mercado Pago Wallet has over 40 million users, monthly active users. And the most common use cases, we have a lot of features like cell phone top-ups, QR code payments. You can request loans, send money, a digital account, and a lot of more stuff. My journey in Mercado Pago started over 5 years ago. I joined the QR code in 2017. I joined the QR code payments team. They were developing an in-store payment solution. The idea is that you could go to a store and you could use your mobile phone to scan a QR code and to pay. When I joined the company, we had only one store that supported, one merchant, big merchant that supported QR code payments, and we had around 2,000 monthly active users. Our payment flow looks something like that. We have the QR code scanner. You open the QR code scanner app. You scan a QR code. You see a review and confirm screen. You press play if everything's correct, and you see the congrats screen. Everything was going good, but we needed to scale. And we were thinking about what features could we add to this QR code payment solution. So the product team came up with adding QR codes to vending machines. To our international audience, Argentina is a country with a low bancarization rate, so people don't have credit cards or debit cards, like only a few. So the QR code payment solution was a pretty good idea because we used to pay in vending machines with cash and coins, and that's a hassle. Nobody wants to do that. So how our UX team designed the flow for our vending machine QR code payment solution. It started the same as before, a QR code scanner. You scan the code, and now you have options to select of which price you want to input to the machine. Once you select the price, review and confirm screen, you press pay, a congrats showing success. But some vending machines, we weren't sure about the price. So instead, we showed a keypad, so the user could input the price that he wanted to pay, and review and confirm screen, congrats. And there are some vending machines that all products have the same price. So we got rid altogether of the payment selection, the amount selection screen, and it's a flow similar to the ones in store. So our lovely and simple flow quickly turned into this. Actually, this is simplified for the example. It was more like this. So we needed to do something about it. It wasn't as simple as just add more screens. At the time, most of our logic was in the mobile app. We had little layout logic in the server, so we wanted to change that. A quick recap on how routing works in Mercado Libre. We use deep links. Each view controller has a deep link that's associated to it. So, and there's a global router. And so you could get the deep link, send it to the router would give you a new instance of a new view controller, you push it to the screen, and bam, you navigate through screens. If you're interested in how our routing, our modular architecture work, I strongly recommend you to watch the Boosting Productivity with Modular Apps talk by Juan Martín Sotuyo of SwiftUI 2019. It's a really good talk and tells you how our architecture works internally and how our routing works. So, to this problem. what did we do? We set some ground rules on how we going to approach the problem. Each screen needed to be completely independent of the context. Each screen needed to be isolated, and it should work with its input and produce an output. Input could be in the form of an API request. Maybe the screen could do an API request and bring logic from the backend to draw stuff on the screen. Or maybe we could leverage that deep linking system to send some query params and use the query params inside the screen to make some configuration. And output was mostly either making an API call to perform some operation, or we could also execute a deep link using the global router. The routing system was the glue that connected all our logic. So our logic started looking something like this. We opened the QR code payment screen by launching that deep link. The QR code payment screen would scan, well, the user would scan using the screen, and we get the input of the QR code. We'll send it to our backend. Our backend would give us the logic, the place where to go next, in the form of a deep link. So we scan a QR code, a deep link comes from the backend, and we use the router to present it on screen. So we basically started building a solution in which our backend was really powerful, from any input, or for most of our inputs, could produce an output. So the backend knew where it had to go according to the parameters we were sending them, and which screen was it. And I'm saying which screen because most of our screens in the QR code payment flow work the same way. For example, the second that is showed here, the price selection screen, the list one, whenever you tap on a row, we send the amount to our server, and the server tells us where to go next. Maybe we need to go to the review and confirm screen. Maybe we need to show an error screen. We don't care upside. The backend handles that logic for us. So what we achieved with this, we were able to rearrange screens as needed. And as moving the navigation logic to the backend allowed us to make new flows by just rearranging and recombining existing screens. So, for example, in the first example that I showed, the QR code payment in a store, we later found out that we had the need to add the keypad to enter the price manually for some cases. It was easy. We could do it all from the backend. We didn't need any extra release. We can ship this enhancement, this new product, to older versions, because the advantage of this is that the backend works with all of our older versions, so we didn't even need to wait for the adoption or the train to arrive. So that's what makes us, helps us a lot. We also had several unintended and good side effects. For example, we started doing A/B tests, and A/B tests became easier than ever before. The logic of which amount of user, or which user should be in the control group and which users should be in the test group, all done by the backend. We could ship 2 screens. We could pick from the backend which one we are going to choose, and it all works seamlessly. No interaction from mobile needed. So our progress indicator now gained a little bit of energy, and now we are approaching having more layout logic at the server. In the next year, we scaled a lot. The initiative grew tremendously. We opened new countries. New countries means new currency symbols. Some countries use different thousand separators. Some countries use different decimal separators. Some countries use other languages also. We also shipped our QR code payment solution to the Mercado Libre app, which meant we have different colors of the app. So we had some challenges there to overcome, because we didn't want to put all this decision logic, this business logic of which one was the correct symbol for the price, or which was what the correct text or which were the correct colors in the app. So we, once again, relied heavily on the backend, and we started making our screens heavily customizable. By heavily customizable, I mean that the screens can be configured from external input sources. Once again, these external input sources could be query params in deep links or even our backend. So for example, this simple screen that is a first-time use was configured with the JSON that is shown in hand. So we could, for example, change the title. We could send the title in another language. So if our backend knew that the user is from Brazil, they could send the title in Portuguese, the subtitle in Portuguese. We could even change what the button does because the button has a deep link. So we could start, once again, architecturing our flow from backend. And now we relied heavily on customizations like changing colors. For example, this is a screen that's Mercado Libre that has an icon that says yellow because of the Mercado Libre. We could send different icons. So it just worked. So text and colors from the backend, we keep feeling that progress bar up. So in the end, in our QR code payment solution, we leverage a lot of backend connectivity. We started using the backend to orchestrate our flow. Our navigation logic still resides there, and we also made screens highly customizable. What this enabled us was to be able to create, configure, and deploy new flows without the release of the app. And this gave us tremendous speed, and we were able to ship faster than ever before and create new products with little to no intervention of the mobile team. And this was excellent, and the product team loved us. So my journey continues in the company. It's now 2019, and I joined the Mercado Pago's home team because it needed a revamp. This is the old Mercado Pago's home before the revamp. The Mercado Pago home was lacking. It was an old screen. It was lacking from the technical perspective, and it also was lacking from the product perspective, because the company and the Mercado Pago wallet grew a lot, and we were offering a lot of products and services that we weren't able to display correctly in this screen. So we needed a redesign, a rethinking of how it should work. From the technical perspective, the same screen made several API calls. For example, the balance was one API call, the activities was another API call. Then we had a shortcut section that was recently added at the time, and the logic of which shortcuts should be displayed was stored locally. We have several property list files that would tell us which shortcuts we should display for each country. Because as being an international wallet, an international application, not all features are available at all countries. And so we had to deal with that complexity. From a mobile standpoint, the top of the header was made using a UI view. The shortcut section was a collection view, and the activities was a table view, and they were not related. There were like a lot of constraints between them. So whenever we had to toggle on or off what section, for example, we wanted to hide the shortcut section, we broke constraints every time, and we got some annoying bugs, and all of this happened at production. So we knew what we wanted to build. This is what the UX team gave us to work with. And we started by splitting each component into sections. We call this sections. What's a section? A section consists of an ID, a view, and a content or a data. The data populates the view, and it's tightly coupled with the view using the ID. So if we wanted to build the mobile home that I just showed you, you just needed to combine the sections in whatever order you needed. And if, for instance, for some user or some country, you needed to highlight our cross-selling features, maybe we could rearrange the sections and show the cross-selling section first. And of course, the logic that joined all these sections and the order and the content all was brought from our backend. We had a single API call that was tasked of picking which sections to show to the user that was using the application, and it took in consideration the country, if he had any discount available, its balance, the time of the day, whatever. We could change and rearrange sections and restyle the home depending on the moment and tailor it for the specific user. This is what the JSON payload of the home really simplified looks like. It was a list of sections in the order that it needed to be shown, with its type clearly outlined, and the content, it depends on the situation. Adding a new section, it was really hard before, now simpler than before. You define the ID, the content, and the view, and it's up to the backend, once it's shipped, it's up to the backend to start using them in your application. So it just worked, once again. Moving all the content decisions, the layout decisions, the order of the sections to the cloud enable us to do a lot of things. We could toggle on or off sections to individual users. A/B testing, just like before, became way easier. We didn't need anymore to have strings localized in the app. We moved all those strings to the backend, and the mobile app just trusts the server that for the given user, we get the appropriate language. Adding sections and removing sections was quick and painless, and we could offer different layout for different countries or different persons. We could customize the flow as much as we'd like and as much as we wanted to. So for all curious people, this is what the Mercado Pago's mobile home looks like today, 3 years later. As you can see, the home has changed quite a bit. A lot of new sections were developed, and new old sections were deprecated, and we had a lot of styling changes. But all of this, under the hood, still works in the same way that it used to in 2019. And all these improvements we had allowed us to quickly and effortlessly try and experiment and keep experimenting a lot until we find the right view or the right approach we wanted to use. So, with all of this I just told you, I think it should grow like a lot, because we mostly move all of our content and the design and layout logic to the server. So, but in the QR code solution, we use a little bit less. So I thought there's no ultimate solution. You just need to plan according to the feature, according to the scope of the feature. In the Mercado Pago's wallet home, it made sense for us to make it highly customizable and to delegate all that logic to the backend. In the QR code solution, not so much. We just delegated some mild or some customization, some colors, and the navigation. The navigation was the key of it. We use the same technology in some other screens in our apps. For example, we have our new food delivery solution that's in Argentina. It works the same way as the Mercado Pago Home does. As this is an iOS conference, we'll get into some tiny details. Under the hood, it's just a table view with a lot of abstraction on top of it. And each section are table view cells. A table view cell has an UI view inside. And the UI view is the view that I've been talking about, the view that's needed, one of the 3 components needed for the section to work. What about SwiftUI? We've been working in the past year, and we were able to, using some abstractions, to integrate SwiftUI in our sections, in our view sections. So for example, this section, you need an ID, content, and a view, but the view can be UIKit or SwiftUI. And the best of this is that you can mix and match UIKit and SwiftUI sections on the same screen at the same time. This gave us tremendous flexibility and confidence to start experimenting more with SwiftUI without any of the risks that meant to switch our entire screen to SwiftUI. So we're migrating some of our sections in SwiftUI, we're creating new sections in SwiftUI, and they all live together and they work seamlessly. Thank you.
Congrats on the talk, Tommy.
Thank you.
So we have some questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Cool. So historically, servant-driven UIs are not very friendly for disabled people. Do you also handle accessibility via the server? If so, how?
Okay. We do handle accessibility, and the way it works is that, as I showed you before, each section has a specific content. It has a response with a content. In the content, we can send whatever we want. So in the parts we want to make specific use cases, we send from the backend the accessibility label text in the content. So we can tailor the specific button, the specific section, the specific content, and send the text we want. We don't have to start combining strings locally to sort of make sense what it should say if you're using accessibility elements. We can tailor and design the experience for the accessibility as we wanted and as the UX team wanted.
Okay, cool. Franco asks, what happens if the backend returns a deep link that is not supported by an older version of the app?
Okay, that might happen. Our routing system works in the following way. If you send a deep link to a router that's not supported, it just won't do anything, so nothing will happen. How we handle it in our case, because that would be a terrible user experience. When we make API requests, we send in each request the user agent header. So our backend knows exactly which version of the app we are using, which device the user is using, and everything else, the screen resolution, whatever. So the backend knows if the app can or cannot execute set deep link. So if the application is not able to execute set deep link, it won't send the deep link. It would not show the component, or maybe we will toggle on or off some features depending on the app version you're in.
Okay, cool. Returning too much information from the backend to the frontend might make network payloads heavier. Is that a real problem to performance?
We found out that it's not a problem to performance because we do have large JSONs. We're working on optimizing them, but with today mobile connectivity, they aren't too large. We once made an analysis that one image weighs more than I don't know how many requests, one JSON request. So we're not seeing any problems there, but we do have a large JSON, and yes, we're working on optimizing, but we are not seeing performance issues.
Okay, and the last one. Awesome talk from Pedro Zanoni. Got curious on how do you handle localization with this server-driven UI strategy since the strings come from backend? Okay,
localization happens in the backend. So instead of having string files in the app, we have them at the backend. So the one that's responsible to pick the appropriate string for each language is the server, it's not the application. We do have some localization strings, mostly to show some errors or some we have some errors like you don't have any internet connection. We can't send that from the backend. So we do have some strings upside, but most of our strings are the backend, and the localization is handled directly in the backend.
Okay, thank you so much, Tommy.